Good afternoon and welcome to the video check-in for Thursday, January 13th. This weekend, as it often does, not always, but often does, is not only our annual Martin Luther King commemorative Shabbat. We join forces with the Interreligious Coalition and bring other church representatives here to Temple Israel as we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as celebrate Shabbat together. But this particular Shabbat is not only that, it also is Parshat Beshalach, which is known as Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of Song. It is that time of year where we read the story, that we read it on Passover as well, but very specifically where after crossing the Sea of Reeds, the Jews break into song. The Israelites sing Micha Mocha, Ozi v'Zimratya, and it says Moses and Miriam and all of the Israelites sang this song. So we have not only this celebration of freedom, but tied so closely with the idea of when we have a taste of that freedom, what is the first thing we do but to sing? So it's clear in our Jewish musical tradition, whether it's because of the existence of Cantors as ordained Jewish clergy, our rich tradition really worldwide, and all different Jewish traditions of how music plays a different role, whether it's chanting our sacred texts, Torah and Haftarah, etc., whether it's chanting our liturgy, the prayers, the psalms. We have such a centuries and even millennia old musical tradition. But in African American tradition, through spirituals and gospel music, there's an incredible wealth of tradition there as well. So it's no coincidence that Martin Luther King, in his speeches and in that tradition of the civil rights movement, there are these beautiful and powerful songs that go hand in hand with the message. Now, perhaps the most well-known songs that we think of when we think of Dr. King and when we think of the civil rights movement that we sing every year, and we shouldn't stop singing them because they are so good. We sing what has become really known as the African American national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. So it's interesting that the anthem is not just about freedom, but rather lift every voice and sing, that it's about singing for freedom. And then, of course, there is the beautiful and powerful song, We Shall Overcome. But on top of those, there's one other reference song that I will confess I didn't know, so I thought I would look it up. And that song is quoted at the end of the famous I Have a Dream speech. Dr. King says he envisions a time when we'll be able to all join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Now, I know and appreciate and love lots of spirituals. I don't happen to know that one. So I looked it up, I listened to some recordings, and it's a great song. So I thought as a musical element in celebration of the life of Martin Luther King and in celebration of Shabbat Shirah, this Shabbat of Song, here's a little taste of Free at Last. Free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm 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 free at last. This is the year of Jubilee. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. When my God set his people free. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. I prayed all night, I prayed all day. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Till my God showed me the way. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.